appreciate coming here. It's always a bit of an ego boost because some places you show up and it's like we got to listen to somebody, and then other places it's like, oh, it's you. You're here. And that's a double-edged sword because when nobody's expecting anything and they really don't want to be there, I'm thinking, okay, I'll just walk through this. But when someone says, oh, you're here, I'm thinking, oh, I got to bring my A game. I got to be good today. And typically I'm here in March, and so I was kind of surprised that I got an October invite, but that was, it worked out well. Because March is always a challenging month for me because that's the month we lost Heath, but October was his birthday. So, it's nice to have good groups during those 2 months. And the topic, and I know I've been here too many times because Jennifer ordered off the menu. You get comfortable at your favorite restaurant and they bring you your menu and you kind of look at it like, that's cute. Because we know I'm not going to use that. I'm going to eat what I want. I'm going to order what I want to eat no matter what's on the menu. And so she proceeds to tell me what she needs. I'm thinking, I don't think that's on my menu. In fact, we just shortened my menu because I've been telling y'all I'm pretty tired. And I'm getting serious about it. Because as it turns out, work is interfering in my picking time. Going to the flea market, and the yard sales, and the thrift stores. The only reason I'm working still is so I have money when I go to those places. Otherwise, if they would let me shop for free, y'all wouldn't see me. Because in between watching flea market flip, eating ice cream because it's low sodium, I've got the sodium issue for my inner ear, and so I have to go low sodium. But ice cream's low sodium. Someone told me, oh, you're probably losing weight on that if you're I said, no, ice cream's low sodium. So is Mountain Dew. But I am glad to be here, and I'm going to tell y'all a secret. You do not even have to have the winning ticket with her. All you have to do is, if she reads the number, then you act, if there's a pause, you act real excited. Because she is so excited to give stuff away. And I am in awe of her because she is this optimistic and happy and excited, and she can't have peanut butter in her house. I just don't know. Because, peanut butter is my go-to comfort food, especially when it's wrapped in chocolate. Right? So, let's talk a little bit about, I understand you're got to find your people, is what Jennifer mentioned in the email. And I think as moms, it's easy for us to find our people because we're focused a lot on our little people, the little two-leggeds, right? Because one thing, they're little, and they're usually a lot cuter than the big people. Go ahead, y'all act like I'm the only one that thinks that way. They are so much cuter, right? Because especially if they look exactly like a miniature version of the big people, but they're still cuter. They've got the cute factor. Although as they get old, as they get bigger, they lose the cute factor, don't they? I've already told my youngest grandson, because he's no longer little. He's getting big. He stands about this tall. And the other day, because when he was little, he was so cute. And I used to tell him, you're too cute for your own good. Because he was. And he knew it. Because he'd walk into the room and flash that big old grin. And it's like, I'm cute. I know it. And I'm not afraid to use it. The other day he did something, I said, you're not that cute anymore. You don't have enough cute to cover that anymore. Because it got, losing the teeth, the teeth coming back in, they're just ganglion. I mean, arms and legs everywhere. But the little people, it's easy for us to, because one thing, they need us. Don't they? Here's one thing we forget, moms and wives. The big people people need us too. In fact, more so. In a lot of ways. In one way is they would starve, most likely. And they would starve and die of starvation naked. Because they can. How many of you have husbands who cannot find anything? I have had them call me on the phone looking for something, and they were in Walmart, for crying out loud. Why would you call me? Go ask the customer service, but they are so used to me being the finder of all things that even when they're in Walmart, they will call. Hey, where's the bread? Where are the envelopes? And it's like, well, the envelopes, if they're not in the in the bill drawer, we don't have any. He goes, no, I'm in Walmart. I said, well, then they're probably in office supplies. But they do need us. But sometimes it's hard for them to admit that they need us. And those of us who have tried to incorporate faith into our relationships, we talk about, there's three of us in this marriage, right? God, wife, and husband. And oftentimes it looks like this. Right? How many of us envision this as the model of this three of us in this union? This can become problematic when we get really too far from God, either individually or as a couple. Because see, the closer we get to God, the closer to each other too. Couple things we need to remember in finding our people when it is that spouse. Well, first of all, remember you picked him. And some of you may have been over strong objections to your other people. It might have sounded something like this when you went home to tell your parents. Well, have at it. Knock your big self out. You're going to anyway. And so, you chose him and he chose you. And hopefully, God is in the mix. And the closer you both grow to God, the closer you're going to be with each other. We have to remember not only to pray for him, but pray with him. It's real easy when you're both so busy with the littles that you forget each other. Date night. Even if you are so broke, and I've been there, date night is basically putting the kids' bed to early and watching TV, holding hands and eating popcorn. That's all you can afford. And it won't cable. It was bunny, rabbit ear things. But making time for each other. But also just know he's never going to, there's not a husband alive who can fulfill 100% of his wife's emotional needs. Because pinks and blues is different. And think about your zoo. If you're that pink lion, chances are, if it's your first marriage, you married a blue golden retriever. Very different critters. And just for fun, when you started having little people, you probably had a couple of otters and a beaver in the mix. And now you have your own little zoo. And fur will fly. And that's okay. There's every once in a while I meet someone, especially when they hear what I do, and they feel compelled to lie to me. And they do, and tell me, oh, we never have a fight. We never fight. And see, even y'all couldn't listen to it with a straight face. I can't either. And sometimes my face just breaks out in the truth. And it's like, well, which one? Obviously he's in the coma because you're here talking to me. Because the only way two people cannot have conflict is one's in a coma, or it could be two very indifferent people. Or maybe there's some toxic relationships where somebody's being taken hostage, and there's not enough trust and true respect and love in that relationship to be honest. And there's those two words, respect and love. How many of us expect to be unconditionally loved by our husband? Because you're just so darn lovable. Right? It's like, hey, love me, and what's not to love? Right? We want them to love us no matter what. And let's face it, ladies, courtship and marriage, big difference. I can remember when David was off at school and I knew he was coming home for the weekend. I shaved my legs. I did. The other day I looked down there and was like, And it was like, I just want to wear shorts. Because I just didn't feel like shaving my legs. But when we're in love, when we're first in love, we're a little crazy. Are we not? I remember being back then, and it was a long time ago. I was crazy. He was too. But and it's by divine design. When we, think about, and I've heard people say, oh, I just, it's not about physical attraction. I'm thinking, you are not going out with someone who completely, it's like, I think I just threw up a little bit. Just absolutely someone who repulses you. That's not, it's like, hey, he's kind of cute. I think I'm going to send him a friend request. Or we find out who that person is, and during that first spell of getting to know each other, we're crazy in love. And there's two things that we love about them. Everything they say and everything they do. Now, in that relationship, as it grows and matures, we can still be in love, and we can still love them. We're just not crazy anymore. And it takes about 24 months. And that's why your whirlwind courtship sometimes can go awry, because you're still crazy. And when you're crazy, you don't know what's going on. And so that 24 arc goes, and you still love him. And you're still in love with him. It's just that now there are two things that get on your nerves. Everything they do and everything they say. But you still love them. And you expect, and this, you know what, don't apologize, don't, just go ahead and own it. You expect to be loved unconditionally because that's how God created us. We need our husbands to love us no matter what. That's why they get in trouble when they don't take our side. Even if we're wrong, we expect them to take our side. Right? If y'all sit out there and act like this is only me, I'm not kidding. We're going to go old school here real quick. And we love them. Typically unconditionally. But we don't play fair. See, we're supposed to love them. And we expect unconditional love from them, and that's okay. we want them to love us no matter what. I don't have to do nothing. You just have to love me because I'm me. And you chose me. Now, the scripture tells us about respecting our husbands. Now see, this is where we don't play fair. This is where we say, yeah, you love me no matter what, because that's the rule. I read it. But you have to earn my respect. Do you see we've just put the relationship completely out of balance? Because he has to bring the love and earn the respect. Now, respect doesn't mean I'm going to rubber stamp everything you say and do. You know, part of being that helpmeet is I can lovingly and respectfully help correct you, help you discern good, better, best, to make good decisions for not only yourself but for our family. It's not popular to talk about the husband being the head of the home, but that's talking about spiritual guidance. And anybody who lives in a home where the husband isn't the spiritual leader knows how much of a burden that becomes. Conversely, anybody who lives in a home where the husband is the spiritual leader, is the spiritual guide, I hope you know the blessing that you truly have, because it makes all the difference in the world. Now, David was raised by a single mom, and it's funny because people, talk about, we were, sometimes you get with a group of people and you try, and this is a very southern thing too, you try to kind of one-up some, if someone says, we did this, well, you know what, it's like, walking school 10 miles uphill in the snow every day. It's like, here's what we had, where David, someone would say, well, we were at the church every time the doors were open. And David says, who do you think opened those doors? My mama, with all 4 of her boys in tow. And we lost Faye, my mother-in-law, last October. In fact, tomorrow will be a year. But she left in the absence of that strong male spiritual guidance in the home, she made a difference in her son's lives, especially David's, because, now he's 60 and he's still very much involved in the church, spiritual leader. And but now I can remember a couple times he wanted to slack off. And I was probably not as respectful as it should have been. But a couple times I would, because he was working hard, we made a decision I was going to stay at home with the children, and he worked, and so we had to. That involves some sacrifice. Even back then, it's much harder now, to do that. But I look back and I'm so thankful that we were blessed to be parenting at a time and make decisions that we could do that. But I remember one Sunday morning, he had worked late, he'd worked all week, and he was tired and he wanted to sleep in. And the first couple of Sundays I got up and was just mean and nasty about it, and got, Matthew and I got up and we went off to church, and I just left him there and just, So the next Sunday I'm thinking, well, that's not working. So, set the alarm a little earlier than usual, and it went off. And I just let it ring. Set another alarm. About 10 minutes later, it rang. Finally says, aren't you going to get up and get you and Matthew go to church? I said, no. I've just decided we all 3 here stay here to go to hell together. He got up and went to church that morning. And I don't think we've had to have that conversation again. Part of that is you have to figure out what, those three tools that you've heard me talk about for how many times y'all have invited me. I got to have self-awareness. I got to know what makes me tick and what ticks me off. That self-awareness. Now, some people have just a little bit of self-awareness, a little bit. Some people's self-awareness may be a little bit broken, but you have to know what makes you tick and what ticks you off. Because sometimes that's going to interfere with your ability to love him unconditionally. If he's doing something that is, really hitting a hot button, and you can't go to him respectfully and lovingly and discuss, hey, this is not working, this isn't okay, then you see you might get into a crazy cycle. You get into what I call a spitting contest, where, and again, some of us get into name calling, right? And or we use the always and never. You never. You always. Now here's the thing. That's wasted on guys. Because first of all, they know, because in their mind, if they can immediately think of one time they took out the trash, they automatically are thinking, you're lying. I married a liar. So that's just human nature, but we want to get away from that. We also need that careful observation. What makes the other person tick and what ticks them off. And, again, if I'm doing something that I know it really annoys you and I'm doing it in out of spite, that's not going to make someone feel respected. Now, sometimes I may do something that annoys you that I really am not aware of it. And that's where, we have to have some, honest, respectful communication. Couple things. If they're watching a ball game, it is not a time for a respectful, open, honest conversation. Okay? Just not a good time. Just like if you're reading a book, or maybe you're watching the football game, I don't know. If that's not. Let's just be honest. That's more about control than it is love. If you loved me, you'd put that TV off and listen to me. Well, he's thinking, if you loved me, you would understand it is the fourth quarter and we are down by a touchdown. Or, hey, it's the fourth quarter and we're not covering the spread yet, and I'm going to have to hear about it at work on Monday. If you loved me, you'd be sitting here praying that they get this touchdown. Go in the closet, go pray. Whoever you do, don't do that, because this is something that's important to me. And that's where this next very important tool, flexible response. How do I move toward the middle? Some of you may not care about football, and that's okay. I love you anyway. It's just like, one of the ways I can show respect is to take an interest in what that other person is interested in, even if I think it's really stupid, incredibly stupid, just moronic, really. But I can show respect to you if I take an honest, sincere interest in it. Because think about it, when someone sees you in your MOPS t-shirt and they say, what's that about? And they let you tell them about MOPS, doesn't that make you feel respected? Yeah. And so, one way we can show respect, especially that unconditional respect, hey, you don't have to earn it, I'm going to respect you no matter what, is find out what they're interested in. Doesn't mean you have to, go to every ball game or even watch every ball game, but you show some respect by saying, it's not really, that's really not my thing, but I'd like to hear about it. Tell me a little bit about it. Same thing with our children too. So when we take an interest in what they're interested in, and as long as what they're interested in isn't illegal, immoral, or leave you glowing in the dark, it's perfectly okay to take an interest in it. And that's going to, the value of it is you're going to build that relationship. Your husband is going to feel respected because you've taken an interest in something he's interested in. Okay? Don't you want him to be interested in what you're interested in? Right? Some of the stuff, I love it now when, because David was the one that started going out to the flea market every week because it's early. Real early. But he says, I'm going to go out there, and then he goes, Lisa, I think you'd really have fun because you got lots of great stuff out there, and it's a little bit, because he knew I'd love to go to the thrift stores, but they're open later in the morning. And so we went, and now I love to do the flipping stuff. Got stuff out in the trunk right now, out in the van right now. I got to go home and paint and sand and do something to it. But now when we're out at the thrift store or out at the flea market, he'll say, I think we could do something with that. And it makes me feel loved because he's taken an in. See, that's the interesting. He takes an interest in what I'm interested in. I feel loved. I take an interest in what he's interested in, although the St. Louis Cardinals, I draw the line. I don't know how a Southern boy became a St. Louis Cardinals fan. And then halfway through this series, when it was 2-1 Atlanta, he says, I wouldn't mind seeing Atlanta win. I said, I said, you can't ride both horses. I don't want to hear it. And then they tied it up late in the game 4. St. Louis came back and he says, oh, well, my goodness, it's going to. I said, I said, I don't even want to hear anything from you. And then yesterday, you would have thought he'd have gotten the message. But yesterday, I'm out picking, and I get a call. He says, you'll never guess what just happened in the top half of the first inning. I said, I don't want to hear about it. Because I knew Atlanta was home, which meant the Cardinals were at bat. The top half of the first inning, which means nothing good. He says, they just made history. They scored 10 runs. I said, I don't care. And then all the rest of the night, he came on. He goes, hey, Atlanta got on that. I said, no. So that house divided, so that's a double-edged sword. When if you take an interest in it, they may not share the same exact kind of thing that you're interested in. But when you take an interest in what they're interested in, it makes them feel respected. Just like it makes you feel loved when they take an interest. Okay? Because that's, the Bible tells husbands that you're to love your wives. Now that's kind of foreign to us because it's like, well, they should. Why wouldn't they? They picked them. Now, I'm assuming nobody's in an arranged marriage, right? Okay, I make that assumption, but sometimes you got to be careful. But the same passage tells wives to respect your husband. It doesn't say love your husband. It says respect your husband. And that is because of the divine design in how God made men and women different. Because if your husband were to say, oh, I really respect her, but I don't love her. How many of us would be crushed if we heard that from our husband? Thank you for being so honest. But I've heard wives say, oh, I love him, but I don't respect a thing about him. You might as well take a 2x4 and just smack him across the head. It'd be kinder. It'd be less impactful. Now, those of you, if you, from last year, part of your self-awareness when we talked about the personality styles, if you're that strong lion, bold, take charge, decisive, if you're that pink lion, there's a good chance you have married a blue golden. And one of the emotional needs of the golden personality is respect. So think about it, those of you, a little self-awareness for the pink lions. I like to pick on the lions. Have to live with one every once in a while. The lions in the group take a whooping for the lion I have to live with. Y'all gonna really get it today. Pink lions, decisive. And there's nothing, pink lions should never, ever, ever apologize for being a lion personality, a bold, decisive, leading. Because that's what God made you. God made you that way. He could, in His design, we have basically four personalities, 2 genders, and they mix them up. He also, for giggles, threw in opposites attract, right? How many of us seen the bumper sticker? How many live that opposites attract? You marry somebody who's very, very different from yourself. The thing that we forget is opposites annoy. Opposites annoy too. Yeah, we can, fill in each other's gaps, but sometimes we just rub each other the wrong way. Because that lion, at first you love the golden because they're loyal, and they've made one decision in life, not to make a whole lot of decisions. And so the lion's thinking, oh, this is awesome. I like to make decisions. You don't. It's a match made in heaven. But it's not long, especially after that 24-month of crazy. Then you hear things like this from the golden. You're not the boss of me. Because they no longer want to be bossed around. And nobody really wants to be bossed around. Just because I'm willing to defer to someone's leadership and decision making doesn't mean I want to be bossed around. It still needs to be a collaboration. We don't play fair there either. Sometimes, ladies, we want to make decisions in certain areas unilaterally without any input whatsoever. But if he does it, we just need to have a moment of silence for that. Because that's going to get ugly quick, right? You can't have it both ways. You can't say we're gonna make decisions together, except when I decide not to, right? And pink lions maybe might get bad about that. Because they are, and there's nothing wrong with being decisive unless you're making decisions that aren't yours to make. Do you see, that's why that self-awareness comes in so important. I need to know, is this really my decision to make on my own? It's not like every little thing we have to share, but we need to decide together what decisions, let's go ahead and put it out there. Money. Money's an issue, right? Go ahead. Nobody's judging. We're at MOPS. Nobody's judging. And so you need, that dollar amount can vary from couple to couple. But you need to come together and decide what dollar amount can you spend without getting input. What dollar amount can he spend without getting input? Because, otherwise, we can't have a meeting on every single decision that's going to be made. But if you think it's okay for you to spend $100 on something, and then when he spends $50 on something, well, you should ask me. I thought we were going to talk about these kind of things, right? That's a two-way street. Do you see how not following your team rules makes him feel disrespected? Makes you feel anytime you feel something happens and you're thinking, this makes me feel unloved, you need to stop and think, I wonder if this makes him feel disrespected. Because if you're married to a golden retriever personality, respect is something that he needs as a husband. But he needs it as a person equally as much. So when you're disrespectful to your little golden retriever husband, it's a double whammy. It's a double hit. Okay? And when you, respect's one of the hot buttons for all of us anyway. It may take on different forms. But when you look at most of it, if someone made a list of their top 10 hot buttons, those things that really tick you off, right? A lot of them come back down to respect or responsibility. Someone did something they weren't supposed to or didn't do what they were supposed to do. That's about responsibility. And respect is about, do you honor the person that I am? The person that I am, especially to you, as well as to God. Sometimes we may be thinking, well, he's just completely off guard here and he just crossed the line to get. But even then, we sometimes need to think, who is the person that God sees through all of this? And as tough as it is for us to be female, to be women, it's tough. I think it's tougher now, and this may be a mother of sons kind of idea, but I think it's harder and harder to be a guy. Because we keep changing the rules. Don't we? We as the village, the society, has basically made it almost criminal just to be a guy. Guys in general are going to be loud. They have louder voices for the most part. They're going, if anybody got a male child at least 10 years of age or older, there's some funky smells associated with that Y chromosome. But there's some divine design in the fact that men and women are different. And we're at our own peril, we are paying the price for dismissing the importance of fathers. And we're going into the third generation of this. There is some divine design in the fact that it takes male and female to make a new human. Even if you're getting busy in a test tube, the recipe's the same, right? Thank goodness for the science that especially for couples who have been frustrated with fertility issues, we can help with that. But it's still the same recipe that God created way back, male and female. And when we dismiss the value of fathers, and you know what? Sometimes we do it to our own children's fathers. And now some of them are not worth. Some of them just aren't getting the job done. My husband's father is an example. He deserted the family very young, and Faye became a single mom. Long before there were T-shirts and bumper stickers for the group. But there is a divine design in the fact that it takes male and female to make a child. And a child needs both of what mothers and fathers bring to the table. Typically when you take the little one to the pool or to the park, moms sound like this. Be careful, don't do that. Slow down. And dads are saying, go for it. You got it. Right? They need to hear, you can do it, be careful. They need both of those. Now sometimes, because of personality, that's flipped. The guy's the one that's saying, slow down, be careful. And mom's saying, nailed it! But they need both of that. And we socialize our sons and daughters differently. Don't we? And I think some of that is part of the divine design in that we recognize the difference. You know, I'm perfectly okay with there are some things that David can do that I can't do, as either at all or as easily. Don't care. Kind of happy about it. Gives me an out on some stuff. Right? I'm not the least bit offended when I say, I need you to open this bottle, this jar. Because, in fact of the matter, they have more upper body strength than we do. God made them that way, and I'm okay with it. I don't think I'd have done it any different. Now, there's some things I have real question. I can't wait to say, God, we need, I need some answers on this. Now, it'll probably be weeks or months into it because I'll be real busy catching up with Heath and Faye and my dad and so many others. But it's like, now, a couple things here. Don't really care about the bumblebee and the wing thing. It's like, it's cute design. It kept us all guessing. It's been like, the mosquito. What was with that? What was that? What was the plan there? Right? And there's something. And there's some things that some of the strange, guys do strange things. How many of you have a son? Because we won't. Because we know probably where the little boys get it from anyway. But who has a son who does something really odd that makes you shake your head where you think, oh, that Y chromosome, thank you. What? I wasn't going to go there just straight. I thought I was going to have to meander to get there. But hey, we're there. They are much more fascinated with their anatomy than us. And there's something kind of akin to that. There's something that I don't think men, the male of our species, ever outgrows is they love peeing outdoors. I think that's the only reason why they go camping and fishing is because you can pee outdoors. Those of us of the female, we live in horror that we're going. It's like, where's the bathroom? Because we think we have roughed it if we go to a porta potty, right? I hate those. Although they've got some nicer ones in some areas. We were up at our sister's road trip. We went to New Milford, Connecticut, the flea market flip mecca, Elephant's Trunk. It was a religious experience. But they had porta potties. But they were nice porta potties, if there's such a thing. But I don't know, having grown up with two brothers, married a guy for 39 years, 2 sons, now 2 grandsons. What is the fascination with peeing outdoors? We're just different in so many ways. Let's face it, we socialize our sons and our daughters very differently. Our sons get to a certain age and we don't expect them to cry. Right? I mean, Tom Hanks told us there's no crying in baseball. I bet that was in Atlanta yesterday. But, I mean, how many of us have, and go ahead, tell the truth, shame the devil, how many of us have cried either over a Hallmark movie, This Is Us, or there's a commercial, it's a foreign commercial, but there's this guy playing this American tune that I should know what it is, because it was from my high school year. But he plays it, and he's dancing with his infant son, and it shows them through. And then, of course, with his teenage son, where he's so embarrassed by his father. And then at Christmas, you hear a phone going off, and he answers it. And now the son has his own son. How many of us have cried watching that? You know what? I'll go a step further. I've earmarked it so when I want, when I just need a little, I can go to it. Now I've also earmarked the hairless cat. Have y'all seen this one, the hairless cat? Something, the meme, something about, when you're chilling naked at the house and the doorbell rings. If I need a good chuckle, I've earmarked that one too. I don't think men do that. Because one thing is, even though man, woman are social emotional beings, we have socialized and our expectations for how to appropriately and healthy exploring and expressing those emotions is very different, because our sons get to a certain age, you don't cry over that. And our daughters can slobber and sling snot right up till, forever. It's okay. I mean, how many of us are a little bit uncomfortable when we see a grown man cry? Oh, y'all liar. And especially if you don't know any of the backstory or anything, we got a guy at church he's a crier. Now we all know that he is. We all know that he's a crier, and we're okay with it, and we understand that he's a very strong golden personality, and sometimes he'll be talking about something and he'll get choked up, and we have to give him a minute. And sometimes it's like, oh, we know where this is going. But it's noticeable. Now we got women criers at church too, but I couldn't tell you who they are because we all do it. But this guy is kind of earmarked because he's kind of different from all the other guys. I mean, I've seen him cry more than I've probably seen David cry in my entire. I mean, I've known him 40 plus, 39, 44 years. And I probably can count on maybe both hands, but I'm pretty sure I've seen Mike cry that many times this year. And you know what? The thing, and I'm not trying to make fun of him, but the beauty of this is he has enough self-awareness to know he's okay with it, and so is his wife. His wife is, now she don't cry near as much as he does. Now I haven't watched a Hallmark movie with her before, but but we have to be very mindful of that self-awareness, who I am, what makes me tick, what ticks me off, my careful observation, what makes him tick, what ticks him off. And we have to be careful with those observations, because any tool can become a weapon. If I know, it's like, oh, I know this will annoy him. This will get him. Because, lions, like I said, I'm married to one, and you typically don't want to start a fight with them, because if you go looking for a fight, they don't let you leave disappointed. There's going to be a fight. And I know I can remember one time I was, and it's funny how is anybody here where our memory can be a double-edged sword? Something it's a song or something. The other day I was just listening to Google Play, minding my own business, working on a little flip project, and just happy as a little lark. And this song came on, and it's like, I know who this is. And I remember hearing it at a Christmas work party that David had at work in 1977. And now I don't sing and I don't dance. I really don't. I can't walk and chew gum at the same time. But David loves to sing and he loves to dance. Like I said, God's got a sense of humor. And so he says, well, the next slow song, he goes, we'll dance, because he knows I'll do that. And so I said, okay. Well, then somebody came up, and this woman he worked with. Yeah. You know, women who work with mostly just a male, in a male environment, they're already suspect. You know, the wives and girlfriends already look like. And somehow, the next, song is a slow song, and somehow he winds up dancing with this other gal. Oh, he has paid for that. Somebody do the math for me. 1977 to 19, so 40, more than 40 years, yeah. Part of what we need to understand is that most guys don't. If they're being flirted with, you almost have to send them a memo, send them a text or something. They can be completely oblivious to it. And so, has anybody ever been in a situation where you felt like somebody was flirting with your guy, and they're sitting there, they're completely oblivious to it, right? And it happened one time when we were at school at ACU. Some girl come up and just chatting him up and looking like, I don't care if we are on a Christian campus. I'm getting ready to go old school on this little gal. And so she finally leaves, and I said, who was that? He goes, oh, I don't know. I said, are you kidding me? And I said, you don't see a problem with that? And he said, oh. I said, she was flirting. He said, really? So sometimes, don't blame them for someone else's bad behavior. And we do. Because it makes us feel unloved. And instead of beating them up about it, what we may want to do is, not during the football game or the baseball game, not when they're getting ready to go fishing or hunting, because men do not multitask. Y'all did know that, right? Mm-hmm. They don't multitask. So when they're doing, whatever they're doing it. That's it. Now, we're thinking, well, that's not fair. I have to multitask all the time. Right? If you don't believe me, how did it go last time you got ready for vacation? And this is a hot spot for me right now because he was supposed to make the reservations yesterday, but he was checking on something, and I'm thinking, okay, I'll let you find because I found 2 houses, and then he, of course, found a third, and darn it, I liked it better. Lions. But he's thinking, oh, well, the credit card we have now doesn't have cancellation, vacation insurance, and this place doesn't have the cancellation policy, and all this, and I'm thinking, just go ahead and rent it. Because that's all I'm asking you to do. Because we all know when it comes time to go, I will do all the planning, all the packing, all the cooking. And they get in the car. And then they have to go back in the house 3 times because something they forgot. And these are just, parts of these are just the way, men and women are different. And it's okay to get together and kind of, good-naturedly and complain, but I will caution you, do not get with friends who truly, truly bash your husband. And hopefully he's not going to be around people and put up with people, bashing you, because that can be very, very toxic in a relationship. It really is. And so we want to make sure that we respect him, and that's going to, it's interesting, the more respectful we are going to be of him, the more loving he's going to be of us, even when we're not very lovable. But the more, if we're really focused on respecting him, we won't have time for any of the other foolishness, and the rewards are going to be exponential. And most importantly, when you're respecting him and he's loving you, the little two-leggeds are getting everything that they need. They don't need your attention 24/7. If you want them to be safe and secure and healthy and happy and responsible, all those things, respect their father, respect your husband, make sure that he's loving you, and it's amazing how the rest will work out. But the village is trying to tell us very different rules and different expectations, and don't listen to them. Questions or comments?